Radio Namaste is brought to you by your host, the blue-collar goddess, Sarah Nash, and a small crew of guest personalities determined to amuse, entertain, and occasionally astonish you. And now, Radio Namaste, a different brand of enlightenment streaming live across this galaxy and probably a few more.
Greetings, listeners. It is I, the blue-collar goddess, Sarah Nash, as your host, and you're listening to Radio Namaste on the OMTimes radio network. Welcome to a very different brand of enlightenment. Hey, first one to hit me up on our Twitter at Radio Namaste with hashtag blue-collar-goddess gets the opportunity to be in a drawing for a free 1-hour Skype session with me. That's kind of a neat gig. I'm going to put all of those love notes in a hat, and Zen Master Ted will snag one out, and Motorized Millie will announce the winner at the end of each month when she joins me as my guest host. If you're listening in live on the most advanced mobile player on the planet, you already know that you don't have to download an app to get live streaming access to this conscious community called OMTimes Radio. You're going to want to check out the archives for past shows at the OMTimes Podbean portal. And Zedmaster Ted will give you a tweet about that in a minute or two. So star that tweet and make it a favorite for easy access later. You can just go to my website. That's namaste.com, and you'll find that under the show calendar for show archives. I was actually chatting with another Om Radio host this morning, Angela Levesque. She's the beauty and the brains behind Entanglement Radio, which comes on Wednesdays at noon Eastern Standard Time. And we were asking each other why we wanted to have radio shows and why this was important to us, because that's a standard question. A lot of people, when they find out, they're like, oh, you have a radio show? Why? why would you do that? Well, she said she wanted world domination. Yeah. But mine was a bit more simple. I just like interviewing people. No, seriously, she said that getting people to talk about their passions is one of her passions. And because we actually have that in common, we thought that it would be a really great gig to interview each other. So look forward to that later this spring. I can't wait to have her on because she's delightful. So, take a listen to her show. And thank God she comes on the day before me. Otherwise, that would be like some serious competition there. Well, this past weekend, I decided to listen to all of my past shows on my iPad. And what I want to know is how you guys are listening in. So once again, go to Twitter at Radio Namaste, that's with an H, and say, listening on my phone or listening on my iPad, computer, whatever. I'm just sort of taking an informal survey. I know the archives are hot, but how are you accessing us and what are you listening to us on live? We host a lot of great shows, but I'm biased. I'm pretty fond of Radio Namaste. And as we all grow with the OMTimes media sensation, we're learning what people want and why they want it and what works best for us. And as a result, we here at Studio Namaste have decided to present the Father Mulcahy Award, the Namaste Award, and the Ask the Blue Collar Goddess segments in separate weekly sections. This way we can really focus on the moment and explain what they are for new listeners and give regular listeners something to anticipate with a schedule that works for everyone. And you want to know what doesn't work for everyone? Empathy. For those of us who are bona fide empaths, living in the world can be a frightening, painful, and difficult struggle, I know. Learning how to protect yourself and decipher your emotions versus the feelings and sometimes even the thought processes of others is why I took the intro class, Empath 101, from our featured guest today, EagleSpirit. It was at the Women of Wisdom conference a couple of years ago in Seattle. I discovered that EagleSpirit's ability to create and hold a really sacred space when you work with her, even in a group, allows you to reconnect to your soul plan and, realign with your life's purpose. And initially, I'll tell you what, I took her class to introduce my daughter to another source besides dear old mom, because, the kids never listen to you. It's like, yeah, my dad's a rocket scientist. I have to go somewhere else to figure out how to build something, I brought my daughter because I thought if she won't listen to me, she's going to listen to EagleSpirit, because I'd never seen EagleSpirit, but I saw her face. I read her brochures, and I realized that she was going to be there, and I was all over it. Well, what happened was, when I was sitting in this class, it was a freaking gold mine of information, and it was presented in a way that was new and exciting even to me, and as a result, I grew in awareness. My daughter grew in awareness and became open to healing herself and protecting herself and unraveling some of the confusion in her being on her own, which no one had ever been able to accomplish with or for her ever, you know. EagleSpirit is about nurturing trust and support, which are really, those are key elements to health and wellness. And anyways, to introduce my beautiful emotional worker, EagleSpirit, I'm going to read something she posted on her Facebook wall this morning. Day 602, 602, new day and new beginnings. Today could be the day you do something differently. It could be sudden and swift, this decision to take action, or perhaps even to stop taking action and just to be. The thing is, it starts with a decision, and it is best done gently. No bullying yourself to better, okay? Because there will be no peace with that. Instead, allow this decision to be an act of grace and compassion. Let your new choice for change add to what is beautiful in your life. There is no need for more resistance to your truth, your soul's truth. Listen deep, honor your truth, make choices that are loving. Watch your life change. Be grateful for the beauty you are creating by shining authentically. It honors you and everyone you touch. Many blessings, EagleSpirit. Hi, EagleSpirit. What's
Hey,
that daily writing thing? It said day 602. That's a lot of days.
it's a lot of days and it's a lot of writing, but it comes straight from my heart. It's really strange. That's from the Eagle Spirit Journeys page on Facebook, because there's actually two pages. There's my personal page, which is just Eagle Spirit Journeys, or Eagle Spirit rather, and then there's the Eagle Spirit Journeys page. And when I started the Eagle Spirit Journeys page, because so many were following on my wall, I wanted a separate place to have sort of a way to hold all the teachings that I was getting right along with everyone else. Because what happens is, it's like, okay, day whatever, and I ask Spirit what the theme is for the day. And so a writing comes with it, and then I find lovely quotes and post them, and there's always those great pictures to share, and I find that it's a great focus for myself, and it appears to help a lot of other people too.
You know, that's one of the things that I love about you. Oh, we have an echo. Where's that echo coming from? Zen Master Ted, do you hear that? No? Okay. All right. I'm going to ignore it. But one of the things that I love about you is that you are authentically humble.
Okay, you're making me blush now.
And I mean it. I've had the opportunity to discuss quite a bit with you over the years, and you're in wide-eyed wonder of your own passion and your own journey, and you share it with everyone, and I think that's what makes you, that's why you stand out above the rest, because you're open to all that learning. And as you're a contemporary shaman. What do you do as a contemporary shaman? How did that come about?
Well, it's really interesting because I never had a language for who I was. And in fact, growing up as a child, I felt awfully isolated. Being able to know that what the adults were saying wasn't matching what they were feeling or what they were thinking was a bit of a challenge. And being sensitive and struggling with watching TV, for example, watching the news. Especially, growing up, I grew up in the 60s, so seeing Vietnam reports and oh my goodness, it was just so difficult. And so as I came along and continued on my journey, which really, I tell you, one of the pivotal points is when I had cancer in the 90s. Oh. And I'd already had heart disease. I'd had 2 marriages and divorces. I'd had 2 very serious car accidents, one that left me without my vision briefly, and also unable to sit up briefly. And so it wasn't until the cancer, though, that scared the crap out of me, because I was a major type A person. Uh-huh. Going, doing, never pleased with anything that I had accomplished. There was always more to achieve, more to have or be or whatever. And once I had cancer, though, that scared the crap out of me. And so when I made a deal with God, if you let me live, I'll be of service for the rest of my life. And that happened in the mid-90s, and it's led me all over the world. And it led me maybe about 5 years ago to the title of contemporary shaman, which is very different than a shaman. A shaman is someone who has studied in one particular lineage. So, for example, someone who is studying Lakota, and they are raised in that culture, they're of that culture, and that's their one tradition. On my own journey, I've explored so many different techniques and found what worked for me, especially specifically as an empath, because when I was growing up, unlike today, there were no words for this.
Right.
No one was talking about it. And so my role as contemporary shaman is primarily, I feel, is to help people remember how wonderful they are, to come back in balance. And I feel blessed that the guides pushed me so hard to create Empath 101, because it meant I had to start to give language to what was my normal, to what took me over 40 years to figure out. And then over this journey of creating Empath 101 and sharing it with hundreds of people all over the world, and then expanding that out thousands by the posts, it's been able to help people realize that their sensitivities aren't a curse. They're actually a blessing. I really believe with my whole heart that being an empath is a spiritual call to service. And we play a very important role in today's society, which is, as you might agree, a little bit woohoo.
Well, speaking of today's society, I think we're going to be heading into a break here real quickly. But you've touched on a couple of things that I've jotted down a couple of notes because my pen's always going when I'm talking. Or actually, when my guests are talking, I'm jotting down so many wonderful things.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
The truth is, you can't change the world if you're broke. I know, I tried. Isn't it time you turned your life's calling into a profitable, freedom-based business? I'm Michelle Barr. Join me every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern for Sacred Success.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
I just literally stopped talking. I turned around and I looked at Peter. I was holding my pencil up and I was like, okay, that's it. My mind went blank because I was thinking about your seminars called Empath 101. And I looked down at the notes that I'd written yesterday with regard to Empath 102.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I was doing some writing this morning and I knew that there was an Empathways entire program coming. Empath 101 has been the doorway for a lot of sensitive souls to get really important skills of discernment and some key, over 20 different actually key tips of self-care on all 4 energetic levels. But now with these energetic shifts that you and I have both been experiencing, I think it's important that we take it to another level, because more and more sensitives are being woken up suddenly.
Without a doubt. Let us define empath as Eagle Spirit sees it. I'm talking about you in the third person. But just for those of us who, my listeners specifically, because I've got quite a varied and weird audience, and I love them all. But some of them are looking at each other right now going, empath? What a highly sensitive person, empath? Because, being an HSP is different from being a highly sensitive person is quite different from being an empath, although you can be both. So tell us what an empath is.
For me, the simplest definition, an empath is someone who can truly stand in the shoes of someone else. Someone who's sensitive or is conscientious, is heart-based, they may say, oh, there, dear, I know how you feel. But an empath goes, oh my God, I so know how you feel, because they're picking it up on one of 4 levels, either physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. And some of us pick up on several levels. For example, for myself, for the healing work I do, I'm very grateful that I'm an empath who focuses my ability to intuit information primarily on the emotional and physical level. What that means for me, though, is that at times I can be knocked down to the floor by someone else's stuff if I don't do really, really great self-care.
So, and it was that self-care, it was that point right there that drew me to you and made me fall in love with you and made me understand your gold
Sarah,
mine.
I love you too.
But it's true, darling. It's a gold mine, because you present this information in a very practical, very loving, and very nurturing way that is not condescending. Mm-hmm. And because you, as an empath, and this is how I knew that you weren't, full of piss and vinegar. I knew that you were the real deal because I felt you feel me, feel you. How's that? I was like, and my daughter, she's got oppositional defiance disorder, ODD. It's like if you say it, she absolutely opposes it. Her life changed that afternoon. I mean, after all the different people that we'd known and the travels that we'd been through, 3 hours with you changed her life and still continues to change her life because it presented her with a foundation. So what is it that you teach?
Well, in the Empath 101, I think, coming back to Tori's experience for just a moment, though, I think the Empath 101 does exactly what Tori got in many ways. It's to really affirm who you are and to celebrate our sensitivities. So in Empath 101, it starts with a 1-day intensive. And actually, the next one is happening this Sunday here at my home. I'm welcoming everyone to the house. And in that 1-day intensive, people are able to identify and confirm that, yes, indeedy, they are an empath. Otherwise, they don't need the course. And then what kind of empath they are. So we talked about whether you're physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. One key component that's initiated during that first day as well is the process of discernment. Because what happens for many of us is that, like we're driving along, we're happy and cheery, and all of a sudden a wave of tears comes, or a stab in the stomach comes, or a headache comes. And the thing is, for sensitive souls, one of the biggest ahas is the moment when they realize that half of the stuff, or for some they found through the course, 99% of the physical experiences they're having aren't theirs.
Right.
So that discernment is really, really important. And then we move on to a 4-week online program. And each of those weeks is dedicated to one of the energetic bodies. And every day, each person gets a lesson, an exercise, and an affirmation. And then we join on our private forum so we can share our experience and journey through it together. And it's what has really, really honored me is that unity and that unit, because let's talk about it really. Most empaths, we really want to be by ourselves a lot of times because we get overwhelmed. But what happens in these small groups, because I only normally do it, a group of 10 max, just so that we all feel like safe and secure and it's a nice environment for everyone to journey through this entire month together, is that the people want to stay connected. So we actually, there are annual gatherings of sensitive souls that I host, so everyone gets together and shares what's going on and poetry that they've written about it or different other techniques that they've come to celebrate their sensitivities with. I mean, it's really lovely. Like, people still want to stay in touch, and they really carry with them the skills and techniques and the sense of community that they never had, because so many of us growing up have felt alone. We've been told, get a thick skin. Why does this bother you?
Yeah, suck it up, sport.
Yeah, suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, but that's really not a lot of compassion. And what I'm finding now is where they've said that research has said that there may be only 5% of the population that are empaths. My feelings now, as more of us are going through this energetic shifts, is I'm wondering is, on a spiritual level, all of us are empaths, because really being an empath is feeling connected. So we are all one. I'm wondering now about the activations that are happening, especially the pineal gland activation.
Right.
Is that actually it's awakening this sense of connection and this gift of empathy, which Jeremy Rifkin wrote about. And there's a great RSA sort of video that you can YouTube, that your listeners can YouTube about. There's actually an evolutionary need for this quality. And what's been shamed about us is actually what makes us special and necessary, and it needs to be celebrated.
Well, and not only does it need to be celebrated, but it needs to be understood, which is why I think it's important for people to understand the difference between being a highly sensitive person. And again, as an HSP, we have to understand HSP is a trait that doesn't have a whole lot to do with being, I cry at AT&T commercials. I think it's that word sensitive that really gets to people. And so, when you add in this third component of empathy, I mean, what we're talking about is a nation of people that a lot of people who tend to be less compassionate or less understanding or maybe more fear-based will look at everyone and say that there's a whole bunch of weak people out there. The idea behind an empath stepping into their true power and understanding themselves and being protected, I think, is where you're going with this, because we are an asset to humanity. We are not a detriment. We are not weak. Those of us, it's like never underestimate, don't mistake gentleness for weakness.
Oh, definitely not. And it's interesting because, again, I've heard you use the word protection a couple times, and I have to tell you, from my perspective, I don't talk about protection because I find that is a wee bit fear-based.
Sure. Okay.
I talk about perfection. It's about really showing up, and that's why the program's divided into the 4 energetic bodies, because my experience has been, most of us empaths, especially those who aren't as skilled, we run about with a superhero cape on and we try and rescue everyone. And it sounds really divine and lovely, but frankly, part of the reason we do that is because we're feeling everyone's upset, right? So we're trying to help ourselves by helping others.
It doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
No, it's not quite as noble as what it initially sounds like. And so I encourage people to take off the superhero cape, and how about you focus on yourself? And if you're present on your 4 energetic levels, you're getting the cues, the sensations, whether it's physical or emotional or mental. Once you're aware of them, then you can address them. And you're absolutely right. It takes you from a place of feeling overwhelmed to a place of feeling pretty darn powerful, because you can't get knocked off your center if you own your power.
I think when I said protection, it could just be more like of a semantics issue. When I say protection, I don't mean necessarily because, for example, a witch might put a circle of salt around herself before she does a ritual in order to maintain a difference, a level of separation between her and maybe an entity. So for an empath, when I say protection, for me, and I'm going to change my language, because I don't want to lead people down the wrong path. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So I like how you call it perfection, but nevertheless, for me, when because I work with a lot of humor, I'm going to use my own little humorous end here. For me, when I talk about empaths, okay, for me, it's like I walk into a room, and it's like when you walk into a public bathroom and you can smell what everybody's been doing in there, whether it's spraying too much perfume or, going potty or whatever it is, maybe they were sick. It's like for me as an empath, until I learned how to discern, I love that word as well, what was mine versus what was theirs, going into a room with people, even people I loved and knew, not just strangers, but it was almost like the experience of walking into a public bathroom. It could be really overwhelming and sometimes quite often disgusting. So when we get back from our break, because I know we're going to be heading, gosh, I do this every friggin' week. I'm like, no, how could we be going into a break? I want you to kind of lead us into this discernment, this how do empaths discern what this overwhelming energy is that they're feeling or where it's coming from?
I would love to share that because I think it's important not only for empaths, so it's something that would be helpful for everyone.
Agreed. And then the other thing that I want to do is I want to talk about how people can find your CD too.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, because, I'm going to feel really stupid admitting this. I didn't know you had a CD until you pointed that out to me yesterday. I was like, what the heck? I need this.
Oh, you know what? I have clients say they still listen to it. They go to bed to it every night because it makes them feel so good.
And what about books?
Oh, the book is on its way.
Oh, I know. Mine too. No, that's it. And here's the thing, though. I know what's going to happen. The minute, I get my first one out there, they're going to go, where's your second one?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think part of the book is it's unfolding because the journey of the heart, it's all unfolding.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. FM.
Hi, I'm Katrina Kavanagh, host of the I Am Wisdom radio show. I Am Wisdom is about the connection between mind work and energy work, spirituality, and living a wonderful life. Looking forward to sharing each Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with you.
Being a radio host on FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hi, this is Angela Levesque, host of Entanglement Radio. Join me Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern for inspiring conversations with visionaries in spiritual science and conscious healing. Entanglement Radio, Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern. Transcendent talk for the conscious mind.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. FM.
Welcome back. Our guest today, EagleSpirit, was telling us about discernment with regard to empaths and how they know what this overwhelming energy is that they're feeling and where it's coming from. So go ahead, do continue with that because I'm like super excited.
Well, it's funny. I have to tell you, I was in Hawaii just a few weeks ago, and I went over to a vendor at the Hilo market. And we were talking away, and he showed me this crystal of his, and I knew I was supposed to have that crystal. And we were talking about crystals and all this stuff, and I didn't realize when he handed it to me that it was his personal crystal. And when I said, well, you've been holding that for me. Thank you. That's lovely. He said, well, I don't know if I want to part with it. I said, well, have you checked? Which I'm sure any of my Empath 101 grads who are listening right now will go, oh, that's like the famous question, have you checked? Because when we have stuff going on, if we don't step back and observe it and discern where that energetic cue is coming from, then we often feel like we're being bounced about like a boat in the water without oars. And so discernment is what helps us get clear about our decision making. It can help us understand if we're getting an impulse, a feeling, a thought, a sensation, whether it's ours or somebody else's. And when I talk in groups, because I'm often invited to speak, I talk a lot about discernment because I think it's key, whether you're an empath or not. And there's 3 key questions that I always suggest people look at before they check anything. Because frankly, since you went potty talk, Sarah,
Yeah.
I'm going to use a little naughty word now too, if that's okay with you.
Yes, do it.
Okay. I think it's kind of like mental masturbation. If you go over things over and over and over, like you think you're considering something, pondering it, but you never get to a satisfying end. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
Okay. So rather than go round things over and over, should I, shouldn't I, just get to the point and ask a question. But before you can actually ask a clear question, you need to know 3 things. 1, am I connected to the God source? Now, whether you use God, universe, Buddha, whatever you see as the highest, representing the highest connection to the divine realm, okay? And you want to get a yes. Am I connected to the God source? Question number 2, is there any outside interference? This includes what your mom wants you to do, what your partner wants you to do, what your personality has attachment to, what the media tells you should do. You need to be free of that to ask and get a good answer to anything. And question number 3 is, so we've got, am I connected to the God source? Is there any outside interference? And question number 3 is, do I have permission to proceed? Too often we've got an idea about something and we're looking for the answer, but things aren't quite put in place. The 3D world is darn slow in comparison to how fast we work on a soul level.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not clear and grounded, connected to the God source, free of outside interference, and have permission to proceed, no matter how well you formulate that question, you cannot be guaranteed of a good answer. And frankly, with checking and discernment, your answer is only as good as your question.
Oh, now I have to formulate a better question?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things, that's why I introduced discernment day 1 with the month-long program Empath 101, because the participants have the chance for an entire month to practice and fine-tune their checking skills. And they get that in a month, whereas, it took me over 20 years to figure out. But I want people to get it faster and easier. I don't want them to have the physical ailments that I had. I want them also, with what I'm going through now with these energetic shifts and the activation of the pineal gland, I want to get it well enough that I can make it easy, this next level easy for people as well. Because I don't think that everyone remembers that they signed up for this.
Well, can you give us an example? Can you give us just a very, because that actually sounds kind of complicated. And I want people to know that it really isn't. But you're sitting here saying, okay, you have to ask this and, are you connected? And they don't realize that it could be just as quick as, I call it, oddly enough, you're going to laugh at this because this was sort of one of I call it head, shoulder, knees, and toes.
Okay.
You know, and it's sort of like, you know, Peter and I call it my 5-point check, actually. Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. It's like, okay, where's your head at? Where's your body at? Are you grounded? For me, that was how I took, and it can happen in I could be walking down the grocery aisle and I could be like, you know, hit with a wave of all kinds of feelings and emotions. And, you know, maybe it's just because I want to change my brand of lemon juice. I don't know. But give us an example of how people can actually learn how to do it. It's almost like driving after you've driven a stick shift vehicle for a while. You actually can do it in your sleep. But give us an example.
Well, practice definitely makes it easier. And when people know that they're grounded and connected and clear, then the questions become quite easy. And it follows a very simple formula. Is it in the highest good? And that means the highest good of all. So it's not my highest good. So you're not trying to do something against someone's free will. It's what's in the highest good to whatever, fill in the blank. And then I always say date stamp it. So for example, when I returned back from Hawaii, I knew I had to go back. But when was I going to go back? And I was watching for the best airline flights and, you know, listening in. I've got friends on the Big Island, for example, who said, when are you coming back? And but until I could get a yes, there was no way I was going to book those flights. And I tell you, last week, when I heard it was in the highest good to book the particular set of flights back to the Big Island, you betcha I did, immediately, because I knew that everything was going to line up. So I use it, personally, I use it for everything. I use it for what I'm eating, because I know that my body is a vehicle that channels all this energy through it. And I want to stay as fine-tuned as possible because it makes it easier. And to not only do my everyday stuff, but to be channeling other energies. I use it for where I'm going, what business arrangements I'll do or not do. So when you asked me to come on the radio show, I love you dearly, but I still checked, is it in the highest good I do it? And you offered a selection of dates. Well, which was the right date? Well, today's perfect. The energy is so darn strong. And I'm certain that whatever your listeners are getting today is exactly what they need, because we chose to come together today.
Agreed. But what about non-empaths?
Non-empaths can still use checking and discernment. It doesn't have to be, well, let's take a step back. So that example about booking flights, you don't have to be an empath to be wanting to know when to book your best flights. What an empath might ask is, okay, that pain in my stomach, is it mine? And if you find out it's not yours, then your next step is to go to, is it in the highest good to know whose it is? And what gets really cool as they get good with checking is if they get a yes to finding out whose it is, they can narrow down in about 5 questions from, what is there, 7 billion people on this earth?
I think more now, but yeah.
Yeah, so something like that. But in 5 questions, they can pinpoint exactly whose stomach pain they're feeling and what they need to do about it or not do about it. And that's where that clearing prayer comes in. If I remember correctly, when you came to the Seattle, the Women's Spirituality Conference, I gave everyone a copy of that prayer. And I have it posted on the EagleSpirit Journeys Facebook page as well,
that prayer.
in the notes section.
Zen Master Ted, make a note so that we can put that on our website, because that prayer actually, you know, here's a funny story about that prayer. I found it folded up in a robe pocket not too long ago. And it was interesting because I thought to myself, seriously? I mean, seriously, because I had just connected with you and asked if you would be willing to be a featured guest on Radio Namaste, and there was that synchronicity and connection, I think, is another way that empaths are really divinely tuned in. Because
absolutely. I have to interrupt you there, because I remember going to university and professors would talk about, because I was studying sociology and anthropology, and and professors would talk about the other, the social construction of self and other. And I would laugh because as an empath, we know there is no other. We are all connected. So I think it's absolutely beautiful that the clearing prayer appeared. Doesn't that make perfect sense?
It makes absolute perfect sense. But again, the empaths that are non-empaths, people, the muggles, they are going through this shift too. And
absolutely.
It's important for them to be able to connect to their inner wisdom, as you pointed out. Listen to me. I'm such a sociopath here. I mimic everybody, and it's funny because I used to call myself a sociopath, but it's actually just I'm saying oot and a boot. It's like, isn't it important for them to be able to connect to their inner wisdom too? A boot. I just, it's like my husband is such an empath too that when we were in Spain, he started speaking with this accent around, just like even his English. So let's talk about non-empaths and how they can actually benefit from if they are affiliated with an empath or in love with an empath, or perhaps a parent with a child who is displaying empathic capabilities.
That's interesting. I've had children as young as 3 years old brought to me, and most often they're empaths. And of course now, you've got the crystal children, the indigo children, like there's all these waves of more and more sensitive souls. And that's why I say this really is an evolutionary process, I think. And with children, I'll give you like a quick, easy tip that I learned years ago that works really well. Often when a sensitive soul is feeling overwhelmed, their third chakra is wide, wide open. So one of the simplest things to do before they go out in the world is talk to them about an imaginary turtle shell that they can place over their belly. So it's like they're putting their turtle shell or shield over their belly before they go out into the world.
And what is the purpose of that?
Well, being able to slow down the energetic stimuli that they're getting will help them feel more in their power because they're getting hit pretty hard. So if you can help the third chakra feel more solid and protected as they're learning more about their abilities, it'll make a world of difference. I used that specifically with a young girl. She was aged 5, and her mother brought her to me because the mother was an empath.
Hold on to that. We'll be right back.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jollish Hour. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Simone Milicis would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Alaya, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Howdy. We were talking about that 5-year-old, your latest, and I'm sorry. It's like sometimes the music like fades in really slowly, and sometimes it just like jumps on my head. I just
it's
was
all
like,
good. It's all good.
You were just starting at the beginning of that, so
Well,
tell us about that.
It was really interesting because the mom brought this young girl because she knew she was a sensitive, and she spent most of her time in kindergarten and grade 1 falling behind the others in her learning ability. And it was because she was trying to care for everyone. She was solving all the problems on the schoolyard. She was worried about the teacher. And what she found in getting her energetic bodies in balance, doing the energetic work that I do, and then modifying how she was getting energetic inputs from the third chakra, she was able to reclaim her power. And we looked at other tools, making them appropriate, age appropriate, like grounding, using the visualization of the tree, which works mighty fine for adults as well. Uh-huh. But this little child, she was just like a little fairy, a little sprite, and was so sensitive that the everyday world was overwhelming. And it was slowing down her learning ability in the traditional model. And I want to pause here because, you know, I was writing this morning, as I do. I try every day to write. And I was asking about why are we so sensitive now with whether you call it ascension, expansion, enlightenment. And is it okay if I read this little chunk of what I wrote?
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Okay. So I had asked the question, why are we so sensitive now? And the answer I got back was, what is not in alignment, not natural, is insulting to our souls, and we are aware of this energetically. We've been trained to stand in lines, to go to the washroom when it's convenient for others, to eat whatever diet or follow whatever regime is prescribed, often in direct opposition to our own energetic truth. Our experience is problematized rather than celebrated. Something is bubbling up from within that is threatening to overflow and overthrow, but not with anger and frustration, with love. Pardon me. This energy of love and light will bring us a fresh way of viewing our world. Excuse me. This is so important, I'm choking up.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Okay. There will be grieving of what was, but also celebrations for what is. As we reclaim our power, we have been trained to give away. Seriously, someone either really needs to hear this or really does not want it to be said.
I was just going to say.
But it's so darn important. The whole purpose for activations and energetic boosts is to light and stoke the soul's flame. You are lit from within. Your answers are there. And so are the feeling and deep impressions of your soul's calling. It's all within you. Take it over, sister.
Okay, you know what? I am actually going to tell you to go and have a bit of a grounding exercise here. Put what you read to us just now, maybe on your wall, because I think it is incredibly important. Because you know what? I'm starting to feel that little like tickle too, and I'm like, okay, no, that's not mine. But we're also going to point out that EagleSpiritJourneys.com is where you want to connect with Eagle Spirit and hear about her story. But I'm a little concerned. It's like
you know what it tells me, Sarah, is that's really, really powerful. You see, as long as people believe that they're separate and they need to fear what's going on in their world, they can be controlled. And so the fact that my voice is back now, after that message is read, I want people to know that they have their wisdom within them, that they don't need to seek it outside, that there isn't someone who knows them better than themselves once they have the skills to reconnect. And that's whether they're an empath or not. We are here with a purpose now. And this idea that we're separate and alone, I want all of your listeners to know that that is not so, that we are all connected heart to heart, and they are never, never alone.
That is absolutely beautiful, because that is part of my mission statement in life. One of the reasons why I began the White Light Express is because I didn't want people to feel that they were alone ever. Not at 3 o'clock in the morning, not at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that we were connected, and that there is this interstellar ESP channel that those of us who can reach out can find each other on. It's sort of like the cosmic interweb.
Well, and the beautiful thing is you're providing that now on Radio Namaste as well. So kudos to you for doing this.
Well, and thank you so much for joining us. And one more time, where can people find you?
I'd love for them to visit me at EagleSpiritJourneys.com, or pop over to Facebook and say hello on the Eagle Spirit Journeys page, or friend me on Eagle Spirit, or I'm on Twitter as well at ES Journeys.
That's awesome. Thank you again. And when you develop, well, I'd love to have you back as often as you want to show up and just give us all a shout out. I happen to know that there are quite a few people listening today that typically don't listen because you're on. I got a couple of heads up that people were like, I am listening because of her. So, and they're all sending you healing love and light too, I can tell.
Oh, thank you. Well, I tell you, the message, I knew that it was important that we connect today. Just before we went on, all of a sudden my feet were burning, which happens just before I'm doing a session. So it's like I'm barefoot in Canada, where we just had another freaking blizzard. So I'm all bundled up on top, but anchored into the earth, and very, very grateful to be present and around at this time to share the message that we're all connected.
That's really interesting, because now I know why my feet were burning. That was odd. I was like actually pulling off my slippers, and it's like, look, Zen Master Ted, my slippers are under here, right over here. Look at this. It's just like, and that's not me. So, hey, well, I'm going to go on and I'm going to give a shout out to our sponsor, Alchemy Stones. And you can hang out if you wish. Otherwise, just put your microphone on mute or head off into the wild blue yonder. I will connect with you later and we'll touch base on this. Much gratitude to you, sister.
And I am much love.
I am just so honored and so pleased beyond belief that you shared this precious time with us and with my listeners. So go out, be big, and I'm really looking forward to the second part of Empath 101, which is, I don't know, what are you going to call it, Empath 102?
Well, you see, there's a whole, I think the download today was about a whole Empathways program. So Empath 101 is part of it. But I think we need to look at journeying within and activating the light body.
I like Empathways. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what, there's even a collection of affirmation cards called Empathways now. So, nice positive thoughts for sensitive souls. And it's exactly what you said. It's about empowering ourselves. I'm looking, I had one sitting right here. Oh, there it is. The Empathways card I chose today is, it's safe for me to share my most authentic self with others. I love and approve of myself exactly as I am. My goodness, that is perfect for today.
That is perfect. Yeah, and can people get those off of your website as well?
They will be able to get it off the website shortly.
Okay.
Right now in the store, the Journey of the Heart CD is available there, the healing CD.
Okay.
And the cards will be going up in the next couple days.
Yes.
Yay!
Yay!
Much love to you, my dear.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, we could just go on and on and on. I just, Zen Master Ted threw a cactus over here. He's like, hey, man, you got a couple of minutes left. I'm like, okay, great. Well, Motorized Millie is going to be on next week. It's the end of the month, and this is where we wrap up the news and the views. We're going to revisit the first 3 shows of March. We'll bring on Motorized Millie for a different brand of enlightenment with opinions and some insights from her side of the chair, the wheelchair. And we're going to offer up what we hope becomes a regular segment on Radio Namaste called Ravishing Reviews. This time it's with Savannah Spirit. That's savannahspirit.com. And the guys there do practice the Om life. Like, I don't, this isn't just like random grabbing stuff off the web and saying, yeah, buy this stuff, it's awesome. Blah. No, this is really cool stuff. And it takes a lot to impress me. Speaking of other cool stuff, it's either going to be Ben or Sam. I'm going to connect with them later today, and we're going to find out which one of these guys. They're probably like cool surfer dudes from, I think they're in Encino, California. They started out. Weird thing is, here's the weird thing. I was telling Zen Master Ted, when I was in Sedona, I actually bought a T-shirt from their parents, and it was my other favorite OM T-shirt. And I was like, talk about synchronicity. Talk about synchronicity, things coming together. I was looking at my old T-shirt, and then I was looking at my new T-shirt, and I was like, hey, it was meant to be. So gratitude also to our sponsor, Alchemy Stones, from alchemystone.com. There's no S for that, by the way. It's just alchemystone.com. They have a wonderful selection of fantastic art. And it not only is it just art, I mean, it's just more than pretty paintings on rocks. They're actually power stones. They're grounding stones. They're meditation stones. And they're pretty rocks. So we give them to the recipients of the Namaste Award. And if any of our listeners are looking for an awesome gift, especially for Mother's Day, graduations are coming up, weddings are coming up, bridesmaids gifts, etc. Get your beloved a rock. Mention Radio Namaste when you purchase them on our Etsy or eBay store, and you're going to get free shipping in the continental United States. And all of our overseas listeners are going to get a 15% discount because we're not sure how that's going to work. The very last thing that I wanted to point out is that next week, sorry. Ask the Blue Collar Goddess is highlighted next week. So make sure you send your aching heart, your soul-seeking questions to radionamaste@gmail.com, or you can find the form on our website at namaste.com under the regular features. So I don't think Zen Master Ted has anything else to say, and I don't have anything else to say except super mondo gratitude to Eagle Spirit. Tune in next week. We'll wrap it all up.